Welcome on into today's Flyers game recap as we're discussing, well, pretty much we're going to be discussing today late Wednesday night's loss to the Edmonton Oilers in Edmonton in a tough one, but we'll also be sprinkling and touching upon Monday afternoon's loss to the Calgary Flames. I do apologize for the delay of these recaps. We're trying to figure out a way to get you guys good quality content. And obviously, if you guys were there for Philly Sports on Monday, it was very, very choppy. And I kind of drew the line right there in the sand. We're working on ways to try to fix the quality here. So for right now, the best way I can bring good quality without choppiness is through the cell phone. All right, through the live portion here of obviously Flyers game recap. So obviously. Look for the Flyers on. We're gonna start off. We'll start off with Monday night, and obviously Monday afternoon. And it's a weird last 48 hours for the Flyers because they have to play two games in the span of what was 30 hours or so. And so it's weird because obviously you're all in the West Coast Canadian time, so you had a 4 o'clock in the afternoon hockey game, and I had to do like a double take. Like I'm looking at my phone, and that morning I'm like, wait, are we really playing the Edmonton Oilers at 4 p.m.? But that's kind of what happened. Felt like afternoon Phillies baseball, Phils versus Mariners at the CBP. But hey, we got some Flyers hockey, and this one turned out to be a win. That was the big plus. It was a great job of the Flyers fighting in that game against a Flames team who have been struggling. Daryl Sutter is on the hot seat, and it just kind of feels like it's one of those situations where you got an older coach. He's sticking to his guns. He's being a little bit stubborn, and it's not working for what they have right now as a team. And so the Flyers are able to take advantage of that. He had a big game by Travis Konechny. Get to that in a second. Got a great goal by Tony DeAngelo with an absolute snipe. Wade Allison got on the board with his goal as well, getting his 8th goal of the season. My man staying somewhat healthy this season. Knock on wood for Mr. Wade Allison. But he's got 8 goals, which is pretty damn solid. But that was a big win because, remember, before that we had 2 back-to-back blowout losses to Seattle and to Vancouver, losing 6-2 respectfully in those games. And it was both games where you had defense on your mind. You know, you look at the lineups, and I think in the Vancouver game we had 11 forwards and 7 defenders, and so you still and then the Seattle game, that was the one where he decided to bring up Kiefer Bellows instead of Ali Lexell. So you get absolutely blown out, 12-4 the final score in both those games. So then you go into Calgary, you're wondering where the psyche was, but throughout this game, the Flyers really played sound hockey. They never lost the lead. Obviously, the Flames, they climbed back, they got some goals back. Sam Ersson got the start in that one, and Sam Ersson stays perfect on the season. 6-0 is Mr. Sam Ersson. The future of that position is in good hands. For the first time in a while, we can say that our goaltending position is in good hands. So that is definitely great to see. Sam Ersson had 32 saves off 35 shots. The big blow, though, the positive was the win and the way you did win. But the blow in this one, however, was the fact that you did lose Travis Konechny. He went down in the second period, and Flyers had to rally around. And obviously, TK this year has been the best player for them. He's been their leading scorer. He's been their heartbeat, especially offensively. So you had to play 30-some minutes without TK, and the Flyers were able to get the job done and find a way. And that was a win where they definitely had to brawl and scrap that bad boy out. But you give them credit because they got the job done. So you move into Wednesday night, and remember, Tuesday afternoon hockey. So now you got to go into Wednesday night and Tuesday night played some more hockey. I got all my days mixed up. Today is Wednesday, guys. It is early in the morning. It is currently 7:45 in the morning. So I know where we're at. I know where we're at. But we're moving into Edmonton. You did face off against a team less than 2 weeks ago in Philadelphia. So different circumstances now that you are in Edmonton. When you're facing off against the Oilers, the one thing you're looking at your scouting report, the one thing you're looking at in your preview is you're looking at and you're thinking about how do you slow down Connor McDavid? Because you're not stopping Connor McDavid. No. How do you slow down Connor? And even in Philly, when we beat them, he had a lot of opportunities, and he demonstrated skill. He demonstrated and showed why he is who he kind of is. But this one is a heartbreaking one in the sense that it's not Seattle or Vancouver where you get absolutely demolished. It was a little bit more like Calgary, where you had to grind this one out. Now, for the first two periods of this game, the Flyers looked really sound. They played very disciplined hockey, and by the end of the second period, they had themselves a 2-1 lead. And again, remember, so going into this game, like we mentioned after the Calgary game, no TK in this one. He would sit out. They're going to evaluate. They probably are evaluating him here today as Philly. The Flyers should be arriving back to Philadelphia today as they gear up for their Friday night game. So we should hear word on TK within the next couple days before the Friday night showdown against the Canadiens. But in this game, you get started off with a Noah Cates goal. That was a great one, as Wade Allison did a great job of the forecheck and protecting the puck, and Noah Cates demonstrating a little bit of skill, wrapping around the goal, getting it between the 5-hole, and that got the Flyers up 1-0. Tyson Barrie did get a goal late in this first period, which was heartbreaking because it was a very, very clean period for the Flyers. They looked like the better team. We talked about Cates getting one by Skinner there, and for Tyson Barrie on the power play as well, of all things, and that's something that we'll be talking about in length in this game. But the power play kill really killed the Flyers on this day. Tyson Barrie gets that late second goal. It got a little, I think it got a little deflection off of Draisaitl, if I'm not mistaken, or off some Edmonton player or Flyer player. But period, this play was brought to you by Kevin Hayes and his great vision. I mean, he gets his puck. It's a turnover in the Edmonton end. Kevin Hayes gets the puck, and I swear to you, I don't know how he knew Owen Tippett was going to be at that spot at that time. He literally, near the blue line, near the right hash of the blue line, he just kind of sauces a pass near the net, and then here comes Owen Tippett with all his speed and might, and he kind of redirects it, and he gets a goal. It was a nice, I'll be honest, it was a very nice goal. Ali Lexell get on that forecheck. Kevin Hayes with a beautiful pass, and Owen Tippett with the even better finish. And then like right there, the momentum is all on the Flyers side, right? It's 2-1, heading into third period. What could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? So third period, the Flyers get themselves in a double minor thanks to Ali Lexell. Ali Lexell, big part of that second goal, but also a big part of the downfall of the Flyers here. Oh, man. So a double minor penalty, 4 minutes on the penalty. Leon Draisaitl in the first part of this double minor gets a goal. Why? Left on an island. And that's not much that you can do there. Draisaitl finding a way to sneak through and it just absolutely buries the puck. Connor McDavid on the third goal. How do I explain like what I saw here? This is definitely going to be like a Sports Center top 10 type, like that one of those type of plays. This dude does a full pirouette, a spin move, all right, and then he gets to the left side of the net, shoves a pass. It deflects off of Travis Sanheim, goes through Carter Hart's 5-hole, and it's like, what do you do at that point? It's Connor McDavid. This man is his job. He gets paid almost $13 million a year to just embarrass players out there. It's just what he does. And so that got the 3-2. Connor McDavid adds an empty netter. With less than 3 minutes left into the period, the Flyers were on a power play, luckily. And Tortorella decided to pull the goalie. Connor McDavid found the puck, and he just from the Edmonton end as well. He just shoves that puck all the way down ice, and that got him the empty netter, and that would really do it. As the Flyers lose this game 4-2, it is disappointing because when you look at this game, the reason why you lost was because you lacked discipline in the most important moments of this game, and that's hard to kind of move forward from. But I will say I can't take away the first two periods. They played really well against a good Edmonton Oilers team. And they have played well against the Oilers this season. We talked about the win earlier in the year in Philadelphia. You obviously, I thought Carter Hart was solid. You know, he did allow 3 goals. But, I mean, again, how many times can you put Carter Hart in those situations? Like, everyone right now, I feel like, in Flyers Nation, wants to pin Carter Hart and Sam Ersson against one another. And the tough part about it is that I think Sam Merson is very talented. I mean, I don't think that you go 6-0 and your first, I guess 7 starts, and and look as good as you have. When I watch Sam Merson play, when I watched him against Calgary, he looks so calm and composed. And so when it comes to like the Carter Hart versus Sam Merson debate, I just think that Sam Merson it just hasn't been here long enough. Carter Hart's been dealing with this BS since 2020, man. He's been through some dark times, and some of the darkest times last 20 years of Flyers hockey history. All right, and so Sam Merson is just into this. It's Carter Hart. It's so tough to expect Carter Hart to do this every single night in and night out. And really, if it wasn't for the implosions in the third period, I mean, we could be talking about a win or maybe even an overtime loss. Edmonton's that good, guys. They're in that Pacific Division. It is a gauntlet. It's like between 4 teams who can win that division. I did think that, Risto's someone we constantly talk about. He's been quietly having a really solid year. This game, however, was the game for Ivan Provorov. He looked really solid. There was one play where Connor McDavid, you guys know Connor McDavid, dude, when he's got full ice, he's coming full speed. It is so hard to slow that down. But Ivan Provorov did a good job of slowing him down on that play, because if not, it could have been a goal. And overall, I thought Provy was doing everything possible to just provide some defense for Carter Hart. He looked really, really solid here in this game. He was a +1. Nick Seeler with the +2. Nick Seeler risking that body night in and night out, and that's why he's going to be probably traded in the trade deadline time, near the trade deadline time, because his stats look solid, and for obviously in today's analytical world, he's someone that I think teams would definitely be clamoring for, especially teams who need some defensive depth. We just played Vancouver. Luke Shen, former Flyer, I did see on Twitter the whole Luke Shen trade being brought up with the fact that Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee not really providing much. But look, Luke Shen has really developed into a really solid defender, and one that most teams can kind of count on. And we'll see. I think the trade deadline is going to be very interesting for defenders. I mean, for the Flyers, you have Nick Seeler. You do have Justin Braun. It is freaking wild that a lot of our salary cap, a lot of our money is really tied up into this defensive group. Sanheim, Provy, Risto, Tony DeAngelo deals. Wow, that's really where we're at right now. I mean, dude, this is like, what do you compare this to? To me, this, like, putting all your money on your defensive unit that doesn't really produce well is giving a lot of Detroit Lions vibes when they spent number 1 overall pick after number 1 overall pick after number 1 overall pick on freaking wide receivers to just be 3-13, right? Like Charles Rogers, who they have, Roy Williams in 2004. I don't think they drafted a receiver in 2005. But then you had, who's the kid? Mike Williams out of USC. They drafted him in the first round. And then they hit on Calvin Johnson. So maybe we'll find ourselves our elite defenseman, our Hal. We'll find him eventually. But for right now, this is what we got to deal with. We got to deal with defenders. And overall, like, the problem is with this defensive group is that, like, tonight, we're on Tuesday night, we're raving about Ivan Provorov and his performance. But there are games where we're doing that about Travis Sanheim. We're doing that about Rasmus Ristolainen. And then the next game, they do some boneheaded stuff, and that costs us the game. Unfortunately, tonight, a lot of people are going to probably point the finger at Ali Lexell. But I really do feel like Ali Lexell, with the Zach McEwen injury, I would rather see him out there. I'm just being completely honest. I think it provides more offense, and that's really what this team needs. I mean, John Tortorella alludes to it all the time. We don't have world beaters. Yeah, that is correct. So why don't we put out more offensive-minded players? I think that, to me, is more self-explanatory. Especially you're going up against a team like just the Vancouver and Seattle games. Why not put more offensive-minded players out there? In the Vancouver game, he puts out 11 forwards and 7 defenders. So just honestly, just does not make sense. Joel Farabee, I continue seeing the debate. Do we give him a slide or do we not? I do think that what Joel's coming back from has a time period in which you should be coming back, and he definitely came back way earlier than that. and it is hard to bounce back from that. But overall, I think I'm in the ballpark where everyone else, which this season I just have to chalk it to that. Because you look at the first 2 years that he was here regularly, he was really good, like really, really good. And I really want to believe that that is the Joel Farabee, and I think it is. And again, this injury is pretty serious, so we'll have to wait and see what that comes about. But besides that, I mean, really tonight it was about the defense. I mean, you allowed 4 power play opportunities, and they scored on 2 of those opportunities. But at 27 shots, I mean, the shots on goal were pretty much identical, and that's because they had the edge through the first 2 periods. And that's just something that has to get better. Power play kills something this hockey team's been struggling for quite some time now since I was an adolescent. I mean, pretty much. So it's something that definitely needs to be improved upon for sure. Oilers did out hit them, and 17-13 on the blocks here. Flyers were able to win in that category as well. We'll see what happens with Travis Konechny. Obviously, not having him here in this game, it definitely was frustrating here, and especially when you have Connor McDavid, who quite literally had a career night. I mean, he got 7 points in this game. He also himself got his 800th point as well. So he's really honestly fun to watch. It really is. We'll see. I'm curious to see about the possibility of Felix Sandstrom as we're talking about goaltending. What will be the future for him? Obviously, those 7 days are coming to an end soon, and you got to make a decision. And I do think that Sam Urson has solidified himself as that backup goalie. So I think that you're kind of stuck there. But it will be interesting to see of what the Flyers do decide to do. Noah Cates, again, he has solidified his role for the future. I think he's one of the, and this is why, we bring up the debate about what should the Flyers do. Did they make the right decision by not tanking? Are they making the right decision by winning hockey games right now? I went on a rant this morning because obviously, as a a key member of the 5 for 5 community here. On Tuesday morning, you had 97.5 The Fanatic announcing the big announcement that they will be the radio broadcaster of the Philadelphia Union. As a 5 for 5 fan myself, I'm extremely excited and happy about that. And then right after that show, you go into the Anthony Gargano show, and then he starts putting out the theme of the show, and it's the state of the 4 for 4 Philly sports. And I'm just like, Ant, really? This is a joke. This is an absolute joke. But then I'm sorry, because I love it. Me personally, everyone knows I love Anthony Gargano. I just disagree with his decision to talk about the state of 4 for 4 right after making that big announcement with the Union. So he then goes on about a State of the Union. He goes on to the Flyers. And look, I think that honestly, Anthony, like most Philly sports fans, are not really plugged into the Flyers right at the moment because obviously this year's been really good. You had the Phillies in the World Series. For most in Philadelphia, they were in tune with the MLS Cup and the Union as well. We just got done with the Super Bowl run with the Birds. And obviously the Sixers, we're waiting for them to get out of the second round at some point with Joel Embiid and James Harden. And so when it comes to the Flyers, I think that people love them still, but I think people are kind of honestly fed up, which I understand that. But I think that people are a little bit not in tune with what's going on a day-to-day like they would be with the Sixers or the Flyers, or I'm sorry, Sixers with the Eagles or even the Phillies. And so I think this whole narrative about the mistake of not bringing Johnny Gaudreau is misconstrued, and that's kind of what Gargano brought up. He's upset and pissed off that we didn't go out and get Johnny Gaudreau in the offseason, and now we're not tanking for Connor Bedard because we do need that talent. Although I do agree with that premise, it's about how you go get that talent. I've talked about it before. Yes, I wanted Johnny Gaudreau, but the bigger problem at hand was Chuck Fletcher was still in charge. We talked about the blueprint, following the Rangers blueprint, but in order to follow that Rangers blueprint, you also need a much more better structured front office than what the Flyers currently have. All right. So if we're going to go out and get a star player, I would much rather not have Chuck Fletcher in charge of putting a team around that star player. So The reason why I'm not particularly mad that Johnny Gaudreau's here, not here, and I'm not mad at the fact that we're not tanking, because I think that right now we're doing the important piece, and that is setting the culture. That is cultivating that. That is setting the foundation up without having Chuck Fletcher to put his stinky, ugly, dirty fingerprints all over this product. So for right now, what the team is doing is what it should be doing. Now, obviously, the front office needs to wake the fuck up and fire Chuck Fletcher. There's no reason that he should be here. Listen, I can put out a pro and cons list because that's how I always handle these type of situations in Philly sports, and the cons list outweigh the pro list by miles. So until we start talking about getting a Johnny Gaudreau or a Connor Bedard type, let's make sure that we can put a roster around him. What do you want? We just got done Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid is so good at hockey, he should have 2 Stanley Cups by now. But because what Edmonton has done and not putting a good roster around him, you see what happens. He hasn't even been to a Stanley Cup. He just got to his first Western Conference Finals this past year. Do you want that, Philly? I don't. I want sustained success. And right now, we're in a spot where we can control that. But what needs to happen first is you got to part ways with the boy himself, Chuck Fletcher. So to everyone's point, tanking, not saying I don't disagree with that. Because obviously, I was on the forefront who was banging my goddamn chest about trust the process. But I don't have a Sam Hinkie here, okay? I have a dud. I have a bum. And I need this guy gone before we can talk about a rebuild, talk about bringing star players in here, any of that. But for right now, what the Flyers are doing is fine. Torts is taking care of the roster. He's building up these young players, and they're playing better hockey than we have in the past 2 seasons since the bubble. And I'm happy with that. So like I mentioned, next up for the Flyers, Friday night, we're back at home finally. No more late night hockey messing with my sleeping schedule. We could do recaps for right after the game, but it's gonna be interesting. This team, I don't know where their confidence is at. It was a tough road trip. You get obliterated in the first 2, you get a hard-fought win in the third, and then you have a heartbreaking loss in the fourth. So what is the psyche coming back here to Philadelphia? And I can't wait to see what that is about. But guys, that's going to do it for today's Flyers game recap. I do appreciate everyone checking on. It's going to be a busy week here. We're gearing up for Union season begins on Saturday, so we got a bunch of content out for you through Philly Sports Network, through my platform here on Parcero Philly. So make sure you guys are subscribed to this channel for all things Philly sports. We'll keep talking Eagles, Phillies, Sixers. Obviously, will be back in action this week as well. I think they're back tomorrow, so we'll be having that as well. But again, guys, Flyers. Fire Chuck Fletcher, please. Flyers fall to the Oilers on Tuesday night, 4-2 in a heartbreaker, and we're back in action Friday night against Montreal. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, and until next time, I go by the name of El Parcero Philly, and I'm telling you guys, let's go Philly sports. I'll talk to you guys soon.